Action puzzlers are an exciting hybrid. That peanut butter slash chocolate-esque mix works both your brain and reflexes simultaneously. You're probably familiar with the more popular entries in this genre, but for every Tetris or Dr. Mario, there are plenty of titles that get overlooked. Today we're looking at but one shining example, Bombastic for the PlayStation 2. That's on this episode of Game Break on most of these Dumont networks.
Let's cooking! 今日はクッキング対決。フラッシュさん、パラッパさん、張り切っていきましょう。
The original PlayStation, released in 1995, or 1994 if you're in Japan, was a favorite for budding game makers and hobbyists. This was due to Sony's decision to release a pricey but useful kit referred to as the Net Yarose. The Net Yarose looked similar to the consumer model PlayStation, except with a black texture instead of the standard gray. Costing around $750 and only available through Sony by mail order, the kit was nowhere near as powerful as the full-fledged kits available to software developers. One of the main limitations was that any application created with this kit had to run within the PlayStation's 2 MB of primary RAM, as the kit would not allow for burning of disks. So while talented game makers weren't exactly churning out anything with the scope of Final Fantasy VII or Metal Gear Solid, the Net Yarose did encourage the development of simpler games. A team known as Shift, headed up by programmer Shuichi Yano, was one such group that benefited by the Net Yarose. Sony Computer Entertainment, thoroughly impressed by what Yano and his team were churning out with the kit, took a hard look at many of their submissions. One submission, known as Paradise, would be granted an official release for the PlayStation. By the time it reached store shelves, it would be renamed Psy. In English-speaking territories, the game was better known as Devil Dice. Like any good action puzzler, Devil Dice was simple to learn, but only with practice and dedication could players achieve a score respectable enough to brag about at wine and cheese socials. In Devil Dice, you play the role of a tiny little devil known as Akui, who maneuvers the face of the dice on the playfield. Matching up the faces based on the value, 6 6s, 5 5s, and so on, would start them syncing. From there you could add more dice to create chains. While the game was not burning up the sales charts, especially outside of Japan, it was still highly acclaimed by critics and players alike. The game's home country received a sequel entitled Psy Jumbo, which added some additional gameplay changes, such as being able to jump and throw dice. Sales in the US and Europe of the original precluded that sequel from leaving Japan. Sony Computer Entertainment would release a second sequel for Psy in 2002, this time for the PlayStation 2. Entitled Psy Go, the rules for eliminating dice were completely revamped, adding the danger of explosions to the previously innocuous dice. It was destined to become another game denied export until Capcom stepped in and brought the game to North America in late 2003 and Europe in early 2004 as Bombastic. Like in the original Devil Dice, the object of the game is to match up the faces of the dice by flipping them around. Again, the number required for a match is based on the number of pips facing up. Once the dice are matched up, they begin to burn. Their face value determines how long they burn before exploding. 2 2s will detonate fairly quickly, while 6 6s will simmer for quite some time. And it should go without saying that being on top of that die when it goes kablooey is very bad. The object of the game, like any good action puzzler, is getting a high score. And the key to getting a high score is keeping the dice on fire for as long as possible. There are 2 ways to accomplish this. The first way is fairly simple, just keep making matches. You could add dice to a group that is already burning, or make separate matches elsewhere on the board. The second way involves letting unlit dice get caught in a chain explosion. Each and every die that explodes will produce a blast in 4 directions, the size of which is dependent on the face value. So a 6 will produce a blast 6 spaces long in each of the 4 directions, a 5's blast will be 5 spaces long, and so forth. That blast will light up any dice equal to or 1 less than the face of the die that exploded. So if a 3 explodes, any dice with a face of 3 or 2 caught in that blast radius will begin burning. Still with me? Because you want to get rid of those dice as quickly as possible, as they never stop rising up from the ground. And it should go without saying that letting the board fill up completely is very bad. Bombastic has several modes of play. The meat of the game is found in Trial Mode. The standard objective in this mode is to survive 100 levels. Advancing levels requires blowing up dice, racking up your combo meters, and scoring points. If you do well, the levels will practically fly by. Keeping the dice lit will raise your combo meter. Getting it up high enables Aqua to move even faster, but go too long without any action and you'll find yourself slowed down as your combo meter plummets. Every level ending with a 9 introduces self-exploding dice to the board. When they explode, they don't add to your score or your combo meter, but they will mess you up all the same. You can differentiate them from the regular burning dice you lit up by their white-hot color. Add to that the faceless wild dice that will contribute to the frantic chain reactions, whether you want them to or not, and you'll come to dread what I refer to as the deadly 9s. But if you feel less cooperative, you can hook up a multi-tap and 4 more controllers for Wars mode. Here you battle up to 4 other Aqui, though most of the time it's a bit too hectic and way too punishing for the inexperienced. And honestly, there are better games than this for when you have a large group of friends over, so don't even bother. The other main mode in Bombastic is Quest mode. Here the semi-endless puzzle mode and game board is ditched in favor of a story-driven adventure. Using the dice, the Aqui can defeat enemies standing in their way to get to the goal of each stage. While a bit slower paced and by itself wouldn't be worth the price of admission, it's still a decent diversion that tickles your brain more than your reflexes. Play enough of the modes and you'll open up classic gameplay styles that follow the rules of the original games. If you get tired of dodging combustible dice, these offer up a nice alternative. But switching to these modes after playing a fierce game of the Bombastic rules can be a bit disorienting, especially when you think you can move a matched die, but then you realize you get stuck, sinking into the ground. Minor quibble, I'm glad it's there so I could play the original way without hunting down double dice or importing the Japanese-only sequel. Bombastic, while good, might not be exactly the best action puzzler out there. Some of its quirks, particularly the general mechanics of rolling the dice, and especially the repetitive and unmemorable techno music that plays non-stop, peppered with frequent cries of "explosion," may turn off some players. But it's still quite a good game for those who look beyond the small annoyances and really get to know it. Capcom absolutely gave people a lot of bang for their buck in this package, and considering you could find this as of the date of this video for well under $10, it's absolutely worth the asking price. This was Dave for TV Games. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.